Always for me, the sign of a good poem that, all these people can read the same poem and come away with something completely different because there's so many little gems in it. Hmm. Hmm.
There's a beautiful variety in here.
Yeah, I'm just watching it myself. I had a
Mm.
feeling that we'd get some good responses. So,
Mhm.
hmm.
And I think rather than me selecting from this, if you have something you would like to expand on, if you would just unmute yourself and expand.
Great. I think we'll just let it be like this, Karen.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just lovely to bathe in all these wonderful comments.
It is a bathing, isn't it?
It is. And we often
Yeah.
need that in our day.
Mm.
Ah, Kate's going to sneak in one more. Excellent. Always the renegade. That's good. Like this. All right. So I just want to give you some key points that I would like to share about, and then we're going to give you a practice to help you experience some of this for yourself. So in these BCE sessions, we don't do a lot of teaching per se. It's mostly just creating these sort of experiences that traditionally we have always thought of as existing out beyond what we normally think of as coaching, but in real life is what we've done in narrative coaching all along. But so the main thing again about courage and readiness for me is that in both of our programs, we try to help people to really be as fully present to what we think of as what is. And so from narrative coaching, we think about in terms of is as we're listening to a client's story, how big is the opening in their story and the process that they're in telling that story? There's not a prize. We're not trying to find the biggest one, or we're not waiting for a big one. We're actually, with a lot of care, noticing how big is it right now. Again, going back to readiness. So if a client is only ready even to hear some new words out loud in their story, that's all they can do, all they need to do on a given day, then that's big enough. And we then can gauge how we show up to them based on that. Another client that might have been processing something for a while is ready to step all the way in to see much more of the truth of what's happening for them. And their readiness is much bigger. And so in the ID way, we take that to outside of coaching altogether and look at how present are they to what is. And so it might be that, a client is trying to talk to us about something they're working on, and they're telling you all these things they're proud of and all these things that are going well for them and they feel very confident in. But you hear this sort of undertone in their talking, like there's a shadow of doubt or a shadow of fear in this somehow that's not making its way into the recognition of what is. And so there might be an invitation to help them lean deeper into what is, to give voice to that part of themselves that they're trying to avoid paying attention to, because it may be and most likely will be the most valuable route for them to actually make progress. It's not often doing more of what they're already doing. It's bringing in something they're not paying enough attention to, and then noticing if I allow that into my story, or if I allow that into my consideration or my identity, what becomes available. And as some of you know, I've been quite sick for a couple of months, and it's all fine. But in the mystery of all that, I've been having this fascination with surrendering to the what is of not knowing. And it's opening up some really fascinating insights, as opposed to if I was pretending I knew, because I don't, and nor do the doctors, pretending I had to be in charge, which I'm not, and which is not helpful. And to begin to notice the things I would never have seen had I not been willing to expand my notion and my ability to be with what is. We have an illusion often in coaching that we need to be in charge of the conversation or in control of the process, or I have to always be ready with more powerful questions. And increasingly, as time has gone on, I've abandoned almost all of that. That in reality, our illusion that we're in control is about our own anxiety at times, that when we're acting that way, we're no more in control than if we weren't acting that way, that things unfold as they need to unfold. And so for me, the more I can just be aware of what's actually happening, what I can help my client be aware of what's happening, there's just so much more that's available to them than was before when they were pretending. And so for me, then the courage then is to be present to more, to be awake to what is, whether we like it or not. Whether I always used to say that the reason we don't focus too much on problems, our problems are just realities we don't like. It doesn't change the reality. It's still present. We just don't like it. And so courage then becomes more of a state of mind, a more of state of presence. And that the first act of courage is not what we do. It's an inner one in ourselves, to let things just be. And so for me, courage is of the heart. It's a way of being in the world. It's not always easy, but I just find it so fruitful. And it's the foundation for any new things that we want to do or that our clients want to do. Yeah, so Steph, in some ways there is a curiosity, and curiosity can only exist if we're willing to be with what's present. And that's kind of where we're going. It doesn't mean we have to accept it, doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's fair, doesn't mean it's anything other than it is. And I find that a lot of just extraordinary energy and insight gets up when we stop trying to fight what is. And actually, so I'm going to stop there just for a second before we send you into some small groups and see if you have any reflections or comments or questions about any of these key points before we dive into a chance to experience it for yourself. Right. I was so clear. There's no questions. Excellent.
Mm-hmm. So, David, I'm reminded of our last month that we were talking about flow and how your picture blends flow and courage.
Should I tell the story of the picture?
It's a nudge, yes.
I know. You're so subtle, Karen.
Please.
So one of the things that I have no training in this. I had no intention of this, but one of the things that I somehow have instinctively become very good at is finding geometries in nature. And they're often, as with this picture, not visible through the viewfinder of my camera. They only emerge when I either in the old days printed them out or now just digitally upload them. But this slide is actually, I was traveling a number of years ago with a shaman in Peru, and we were in an area where it was known for a particular type of rock that was used for a lot of their ceremony. And so we were going there to sort of choose or be chosen by a stone that we could use in a practice that we were about to do. And I was just really struck at that time in the afternoon about the way the light was sort of shimmering across this small little river where these stones were. And there was just something about the shimmering that caught my eye. So I thought, I'm going to take some photos of this. Now I couldn't see, and all I saw was shimmering blue water in many ways in my camera lens. This picture's not been retouched at all. It hasn't. This is how it came out of my camera. And so now I had to finish the trip, come home, this is in the old days, analog days, send the film in, get it back. And I just fell out of my chair when I saw this picture. So there's this perfectly formed purple heart in the middle of the picture. If you could, it's missing a little bit of cropping here, but there's actually green on both sides, as if they're there's hands holding this heart. This is even more spectacular because the intention I had set for my ceremony was I wanted to live with a bigger heart. And here I am drawn to an invisible scene in the river. And this picture emerges out of my camera. And not only that, when you looked in real life, you couldn't see the bottom of the river, but look, it's crystal clear through the center of the heart. So, and so for me, to Karen's point, there is, as we start to allow ourselves to be in the flow of what is, as opposed to trying to make something happen in what is, far more becomes available to us than we otherwise would ever see. And by expanding what we can see, yeah, and Manjeet, they do have eyes, right? Which even is like, it's like looking like, you get this? It's like just like rubbing in. Do you get the point here? Yeah, it was quite fabulous of an experience. Yeah, so thanks for the nudge, Karen. I always, it's one of my fondest memories of life. Yeah.
Fun story.
Yeah.
And just to, as we begin to set up the practice, just to know we have an hour more for today's gathering. So if you know that you're going to be leaving, if you would either send me a note so I don't, put you in, or into the breakouts, let me know. Okay.
Yeah.
How many would you like grouped together, David? 2 or 3?
I'm thinking 3 would be great.
Okay. Fantastic. And how much time would you like?
So I would like to give them 40 minutes.
Okay.
I want to give you plenty of time to just enjoy the activity. There's no rush. So Robert, we'll pick up your question when we come back from the small groups, but I want to use this sort of springboard to get people into the small groups. So here's what I'd like you to do. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. All right. So I'm just going to move this up. So in our narrative coaching model, it starts with situate, which is just the welcoming of somebody into the space, situating themselves in the conversation with us, noticing how they're situated in their story. And we're not trying to change anything, get anywhere, judge anything. And so a lot of what we're doing in Situate is to invite our clients to widen and deepen their awareness of what is. And for us to notice kind of how that takes shape for them. How big can they make their perspective, or how much are they willing to allow themselves to become aware of? And this takes a lot of courage from us, whether we're coaching or working with a small group or a leadership team or a facilitated workshop or session. And so it takes the ability to trust the silence, to remain present to whatever is unfolding, to get to the crux for now, rather than just jabber about things or try to push too hard. So, so what I'd like you to do is, and you can decide as a group how you want to divide up your time, but I'd like to give at least a couple of you the chance to practice this as a recipient. So don't take all the time with one of you, but I'd like one of you to share a bit about something that's going on in your life, your practice, that you would like to talk about that might, be of value to you to get some support or insight. I'd like another one of you in your group to serve as a mirror for them, so they see themselves more clearly as they're telling their story. So your comments or your reflections are helping them notice themselves, not for you to gather information. So just imagine that all the energy is staying with them, the story is staying with them. You're not pulling anything over to you. And the third person can help with that. So you're not there to coach them. Please don't coach them. So what you're trying to do is help them be present to themselves and to be present to what is in their story in relationship to their issue. And so they might be talking about something in a very bucolic voice, but you have this sense there's anger in the story. So just put out a question. I'm wondering if you're aware of, or if you feels true for you that there's anger here. It's part of the what is that may not be the person perceives as not appropriate to share in a small group or whatever. So just get them to notice more and more, as much as possible, about what is for them and what they might begin to appreciate if they were to allow more into the what is, which often includes a new perspective. You yourself, as an observer or a mirror, can also ask, what's coming up for me? Like, oh, this is going too slow. I'm noticing myself be a patient. So your invitation for readiness is, can I be courageous enough to be quiet and trust that everything will unfold just fine? And so this is really just an exercise in noticing how courageous am I allowing myself to be? How expansive can I make my readiness? And the courage then to maybe bring into my acceptance or my awareness of what is things that I might not have otherwise chosen to have be there. I'll leave it at that. Are there any questions about the activity before you put you into your small groups? Right, anything, Karen?
I think everything's looking good. We have a few folks who are leaving. So thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Kathleen, Fran, Martin, Lori, thank you very much for coming. And see you next time.
Yeah, and the slide, there's a last slide here, which for the which you'll receive this email after the session today, but you'll have access to the slides, the recording. There's a practice that we're gonna give you to build on this, that you'll get that as well. So all that will come to you, and there also is a forum that we have if you want to come back around to us and post on the BCE forum kind of what this meant to you today and what you've done with this. There's also a link to come do that. So for those of you who have to leave, just know that all that's coming your way after we're done with this session today. All right. So Karen, how about if you put them into some small groups and we'll let them have some time to talk to each other.
Sounds wonderful. And I'm going to relocate David for just a second because we just needed to, somebody just dropped off. One of you will have 4, the rest of you will have 3.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you back here in just a bit.
What a great exercise activity. What a great activity.
Now I've got to find the voice that just said that. Is that you, Pamela?
That was Pamela.
Pamela.
Right. I know that voice.
Well, I just have to thank you guys. You put me with the perfect people.
Excellent.
Well, that was autofill. So, yeah.
Just say thank you, Karen.
We paid Pamela to say that.
Okay.
Good move.
So we've got about 10 minutes. I would just love to hear from any of you about your experience. And then I've just got one final slide to show you at the very end. But what emerged for you about this idea of courage as readiness? Or anything else you found interesting?
David, I'll speak to that.
Is that you, Tommy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about trusting the feedback from the field and how that is such a different stance than, say, traditional ICF goals, plans, et cetera,
Yes.
And it seems to me that that's the place, for me anyway, where there's this powerful intersection with courage. Because what comes to me from the field comes to me very strongly. And then I sometimes wonder, like, are you crazy? where did you get that idea in the first place? And so, it takes courage to be out there and maybe have other people think I'm crazy too. But it feels right. It feels authentic.
Yeah. And the irony though is that, and then it's sort of the humor of all this, not because is that it's like we have to be courageous to face what's in the field. Well, it's in the field anyways, whether we see it or like it or notice it at all, right? It's not like we're making it be in the field or and yeah, sometimes it's inconvenient. And had this fabulous conversation with Carolyn on Sunday, and the feel was like just like you know, and I kept trying to like no, and then it would just like come back again, and it's just and I just, again, this fascination with how do we be courageous to be open? And we can always choose what to receive, what to act on, how we respond. We can sort of quiet certain parts of the field and not address it if it's too much. So it's not like saying we have to be at the mercy of the field. It's just saying it's all there the whole time. The whole time. It's all there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Mm. You want to say some more, Carol? Or
Well, David, for me, courage lives inside each and every one of us. It's and around us. But my experience has been that courage comes from within, and bringing it into the field, and it brings such a gift from my perspective. And so the heart, and your picture of the heart, I mean, for me is courage is heartfelt.
yeah.
And it sits around my heart. And as I put in the chat, its courage is there's a courage muscle, and it's like building your abs. It's bring it forward at all times. And so the time that I've just spent with Natalie and Carolyn, it's to witness courage playing its part in bringing forward what needed to be brought forward in the field, and allowing it, just allow it to happen. I mean, in the practice that I'm building and the speaking that I'm doing, David, I'm talking about courage. So this is just
Perfect.
Yeah, this was so awesome. So I often say to people is, you take fear. If you want, give it a boot to the back of the bus and keep courage with you at all times. Yeah. It's powerful.
Good. Thank you. Who else would like to share?
And share something that actually Pamela shared in our group.
Okay, David. Yeah.
Set in motion a considerable amount of reflection on my part. She grew up on a farm on the west side of the Mississippi River, and I grew up on a farm on the east side of the Mississippi River. And she talked about farmers who have no control over the weather, which is the primary force that determines their success. But they still continue year after year to believe it's possible to have a good crop and a good harvest. And they commit their money, as Pamela said, to buying the seeds. And they go out there. And Carol, the heart is the ones that succeed, I believe, that survive, love the land. They love the community, but they also love the land. But the thing I took out of it was the courage is to proceed when you're not in control. When you have no illusion that you can control.
Right.
And just get up and keep doing. I realized that Pamela and I were dipped in that same sheep dip growing up.
Yeah.
We didn't have sheep.
But in that sense, David, we're all farmers. We're all waking up every day choosing to plant seeds, right? And having the faith.
Yep.
Everything that we do, that we imagine, creating a curriculum, having an agenda, setting a goal, these are all illusions, right? That we're trying to place on a reality of how things are unfolding. It doesn't mean that farmers don't work their butt off trying to make the most of what they do have and how the weather does turn out. But I just feel I love this analogy of just imagining that we're all farmers. And yeah.
And David, I'm noticing we have about 6 minutes left, and I know you had another slide, and I
Yeah.
also see, Robert, your hand up. So Robert, if you could keep it laser-like, and then we'll move on.
Laser-like, a challenge for me. That it's my observation that for a long time that people cannot change until they're ready, and once they're ready, they can't help it.
Yeah.
That change is not the issue. That the issue is transformation. The issue is not being different, but being the same consistently. Being who I am, being what is my authentic self, and not paying attention to the drunken monkey of the mind that's constantly telling me I'm doing it wrong, or I'm going to fail, or that other thing over there is what I really ought to be doing. But to have the courage to be present to what's so and embrace that. And if it's a lesson, to try to take the lesson and change what needs to be changed that life tells me needs to change. Or if it's a blessing, and I should say, oh, good, this is a good thing. Let me go with this. Let me grab onto this with both hands and enjoy and utilize this gift. Because that's mostly what everything is. It's a lesson or a blessing. And all I have to do is let go of my fear and keep it maybe in my back pocket, maybe, because that's useful. There's stuff out there to be afraid of, but not what I think. The old timers in AA said, oh, many horrible things happened to me in my life. Some of them were even true.
Thank you, Robert. That's thank you. That's great.
We're gonna end on that. We can't top that, so we're gonna end with that.
Cannot top it.
No.
But I did want to just show this slide with you. So so there's, like I said, you'll receive an email with another practice you can do on the same topic that you can take with you. You also can share with a friend and tell them about the program. That would be great too. I love this line I came up with: step into the truth just past what you're ready for. And there's a small practice. You'll receive the handout about that. And then if you want to share anything about today or about what you do with the other practice, Karen, if you could just
Put that in there.
put this in the chat box as well. This takes you right to our free membership community, and there's a space just for this forum for the BCEs, and you can put in there anything you'd like to share in terms of what you've discovered or realized or wondered about through the work that we're doing together. So yeah. And then if you have any more questions about anything that we do, you can find us here at MI Connect. I love this picture. I've had it on my website in some fashion for probably 7 or 8 years. I just love it. So it will never really go away. So I'm just going to take that down for now and just see if there's any parting reflections anybody would like to share as a way to close out our day together.
I'll share that the time really flew by. But this was my first time here. It was absolutely time well spent. And I really appreciated my co-partners in the breakout room, and I want to thank Karen for inviting me.
Great.
You're welcome, and you're welcome.
was nice to see some familiar faces. I'm
Hey, David.
relatively new, but I saw
Yeah.
some people to recognize that I hadn't seen in a bit.
Yeah. Hmm. Sarah, did you want to speak or are you just waving at us? You're on mute.
You're on mute. There you go.
Sorry. You know, this today was just the perfect timing for something I've been struggling with. And the idea of, you know, who are you willing to become, and how much honoring the reality of the challenges
Hmm.
that are real. They're real, that are there. And those fears that you have are real.
Hmm.
But in light of those, how much further are you willing to step forward?
Hmm.
And so this was a blessing for me today. And I thank you for this
Wonderful.
conversation.
Yeah. I remember talking, Sarah, years ago to the second highest ranking person at Australia's biggest bank. And we were doing this massive change initiative for the CEO. And I said, what do you've been around for this a long time. Like, what do you think of all this? And he said, well, just to put this in perspective, we have 27 major change initiatives in the bank, each of which has a profile of the ideal leader in that thing, right? He said, I can barely recognize myself when I'm shaving in the morning. How am I going to become 27 more new idealized people? And I said, I'm with you. So I stopped doing any idealized profiles or idealized lists or categorizations or anything for any of the programs I ever did, because it's just absurd. And so we only deal, for the most part, in what's real, what is true right now. That's all I'm interested in. And you can have your own personal aspirations, you can have organizational desires for you, but ultimately, I think we exhaust ourselves by all these ideals we think we're supposed to strive for. It just kills us. Like, why? Well, and so, yeah, anyways, that's another day's topic, but I appreciate you sharing that, Sarah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So
thank you, everyone.
I just want to thank you for your time. If all goes well, our topic next month will be silence, although the muse and the field might bring another topic to the first surface between now and then, so I can't promise that. Silence will be at some point, it's on my list, but we'll have to see what feels most present in the field in a couple of weeks after I get back from my trip, and see where the topic ends up. So thank you for your time. I wish you a wonderful rest of your week, and great explorations with courage wherever that takes you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Walk go dancing.
Adios, everyone.
All right, be well.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
I'll stop the recording.
Hmm.